A Bug's Life was a success, it didn't quite bring in the numbers that Toy Story did. And even the critical reaction to it seemed to be kind of mixed. So, Pixar went back to the drawing board with Toy Story 2. I don't think people really knew what to expect with this. I mean, it's a sequel to a film they really liked. And seeing how this was a new production studio, we didn't know. Could they do sequels? Could they do follow-ups well? A lot of sequels are usually not as good as the first one, so people were kind of nervous, but at the same time, they were excited to see their favorite characters again. And, from my standpoint, Toy Story 2 was not only as good as the original, I think it's even better. Okay, what's the story? Woody and Buzz are back again, but this time Woody is in a bit of a predicament. A garage sale is going on, and sadly, one of the older toys is being sold off. Woody goes in to save him, but inevitably gets stolen by a nasty toy store owner. Because we figure out that Woody is actually a very rare toy. In fact, he used to actually be part of a TV show. That's right, Woody's a collector's item. And he's not the only one. He also comes across a cowgirl named Jessie, a horse named Bullseye, and a miner named the Prospector. The race is on for the rest of Woody's friends to go out and save him, but it seems like Woody may have second thoughts about returning back home. Because he knows that eventually he has to face the inevitable, that Andy will grow up and someday forget about him. He has another choice where he can be taken to a museum where he can be enjoyed by children forever. People would come from all over the world just to see that he exists. And it's great writing like this that once again makes Toy Story great. Yes, there is kind of a villain in this movie with the toy store owner, and yes, even another one that's eventually revealed. But again, their motivations are understandable. It's just the fact that they want to force their point of views on other people that ultimately make them kind of bad guys. But the dilemma that Woody has to go through is actually a good dilemma. In fact, you're kind of siding with him going to the museum. Heck, some of these toys even have backstories. Jessie's backstory is one of the emotional highlights of the entire film. But to balance it out, she's not just a sad stick in the mud, she's a very fun, active character as well. In fact, all the new characters are. We have a Mrs. Potato Head, the evil Emperor Zurg, another Buzz Lightyear that goes through the exact same motions as the first one. And look, even Barbie makes an appearance in this. How cool is that the marketing team that brought us Barbie, something so controlled and so protective of their identity, actually allowed them to kind of make fun of their brand? As I said before, I'm not a huge Randy Newman fan, but you know what? The song in here is a good song. Probably one of his best, in fact. I'll admit, it's very well done. The CG on the people has gotten better too. I mean, true, they don't look like actual people, but the textures are better, and yeah, even a lot of the facial expressions seem to work pretty well. The dramatic moments are very strong. They're never out of place, they're very emotionally satisfying, and you relate with every single aspect of it. You relate with dealing with the inevitable. What will ultimately happen in the end? What should you do? What's the better thing for yourself and for others? What's the selfish thing? What's the unselfish thing? All this stuff plays in, and it's very smart and very well done. Just when you think something like Toy Story couldn't possibly get any better, they surprise us with this very well told, well written, well developed, interesting continuation of a story, not a rehash. It's clever, it's funny, it's dramatic, it's visually interesting, it's musically interesting, the characters are wonderful. I've gone on about it long enough. See it if you haven't already. I'm always sort of shocked when people say what an original idea Monsters, Inc. is. I don't know, I just know I've seen this idea in other Saturday morning cartoons with monsters that go and scare kids and then they return to sort of like this office environment like it's almost a business. I've seen it before. But just because something's been done before doesn't mean it's necessarily bad, as long as they can bring something new and unique to it. And that's exactly what Monsters, Inc. does. It creates characters, it creates an environment, it creates an interesting reason why they need to scare little kids. But I don't know if these characters are really on par with, say, the Toy Story series, or the story for that matter. Does that make it bad? Well, let's take a look at what we got. You got two monsters, one played by Billy Crystal and another played by John Goodman. They're great at scaring little kids and getting them to scream. Why is it important to get them to scream? Well, because apparently the monster world that they live in is powered by the screams of children. It's how they harness their energy, electricity, and so forth. That's kind of creative. They're in competition with another monster played by Steve Buscemi, who's constantly trying to beat the record for the most scares, but is constantly broken by our two heroes. The catch though? They're convinced that kids are unbelievably contagious. They think that they spread disease and just touching them can destroy you for life. So it's probably not the best that a little girl has snuck into the monster world and is totally driving our two heroes crazy. The irony, of course, is that two grotesque monsters are absolutely terrified of a cute, innocent little girl. Things get even more crazy when the monsters actually start to like the little girl, but discover that she actually may be part of a giant conspiracy. There's a plot to use the children to fuel this giant machine that can suck the life out of them, or at least turn them white or something. I'm not really sure what it does, but apparently it makes even more energy, and I'm not really sure if it kills them or what, or even what it's doing, but ooh, it sounds evil. Yeah, okay, the evil plan in this movie is a little complicated, and honestly, even I could barely follow it. And unfortunately, that's not the film's only shortcoming. People may disagree with me, but while I think John Goodman's performance is fine, I really don't get into Billy Crystal. Maybe it's a little too old school, a little too vaudeville, a little too playing to the audience. I don't know, just something about the delivery does not satisfy me.
Well, then why don't you find some place for you to sleep? While I think of a plan!
I could see like a Patton Oswalt in this role, or a Jack Black, but there's a lot of scenes where I was saying to myself, I should be laughing at this, so why am I not? And I really do think it's his delivery. And if you enjoy it, fine, it's just not for me. The villains are unbelievably weak too. I won't give away who they all are, but let's just say it's kind of friggin' obvious. And if you're gonna do a villain in a movie, make them good villains. I mean, the designs are kind of fun, but the characters are so bland and so forgettable. Why couldn't you make them funny too? Or if you're gonna make them evil, make them really evil. Make them diabolical. Go Frollo on our asses. Just really, really have fun with it. The plot, like I said, while a good setup, gets a little too complicated, I think even for kids to follow. I mean, they can get through it okay, but the specifics are kind of odd. And the hero's journeys aren't really that much either, at least again from the Billy Crystal standpoint. I don't really care how his relationship with his girlfriend goes, I don't really care how his connection with his job goes, I don't even really care how his relationship with his best friend goes. I don't know, I'm not sure if it's the character or the performance. I mean, I don't hate him, it just doesn't grab me in the least. But I'll tell you what does grab me. The setup, which is very creative, the climax, which is a ton of fun, and actually, I do like the relationship between John Goodman's character and the girl. And this is another area where you might disagree with me. People either seem to love this girl or hate her. And I can see both sides of the argument. I mean, on the one hand, yeah, she's kind of annoying. She barely forms words. She just sort of giggles, and it's almost kind of pandering to the little kids. Oh, isn't that funny? She's laughing, she's spitting, going tee hee hee. I mean, I can see that side. But I do sort of like how the monsters are really, really freaked out by her and how they're just downright terrified. And I like how the relationship does actually build between the two of them. I like how he starts to enjoy something that he's supposed to be afraid of. I like that he actually starts to care. I like that he starts to play with her. I don't know, maybe I'm just a schmuck for that kind of stuff. So on the whole, the movie is sort of a mixed bag. There's some stuff I really like, a lot of stuff I don't like, but it's hard to think of anything I really hate. Some of the monsters are creative, but to be fair, I think they could have been more creative on the designs. But they make up with it with some of the cool textures. Like, look at that, you can see every individual hair on that thing. So while I don't think it's the strongest, and I think a lot more jokes and character could have come from this, I think Monsters, Inc. is cute. It's not the best, but you know what, for a brief little bit of entertainment and just something bright and colorful and has a little bit of a brain to it, I'd give it a pass. I'm glad I saw it, I just don't think I would see it again.